From the graph, we can see the GDP and FDI in Thailand. The GDP and FDI have been increasing and decreasing with some pace since 2000 year. The amount of FDI and the GDP has increased substantially. In 2000 years, there were almost half of the Thai population were found in agricultural sector, whereas 19% in industry and 32.2% in service sector. In 2018, the share of the service sector had increased to 45.1%, while the share of employment in agriculture declined to 32.1%. The industry sector was around 22%. The employment structure has changed from the agricultural to another two sectors, may be driven by the expansion of FDI. The FDI inflows from developed countries not only improved productivity and international trade, also led to technology transfer and spillover effects. Most of empirical studies suggest that these factors increase inequality by wedding the heterogeneous labor force. In addition, the nature of FDI itself directly leads to different demands of skilled and unskilled labor to some extent. The horizontal investment is driven mainly by the desire to gain market share, and the vertical investment by relative factor endowments. So the horizontal FDI increases demand for skilled workers, but the vertical FDI increases the demand for unskilled workers, which leads to skill-unskilled wage gap increase in developing countries. So the study is going to explore the effects of FDI on skill-unskilled wage gap using the panel data from 2008 to 2017 based on the prospectual states of FDI and wage disparity problem of skill-unskilled labor in Thailand. The second part is the research procedure and the data. The two hypotheses will be posed. The hypothesis 1 is the horizontal FDI increase demand for skilled workers that lead to skill-unskilled wage gap increase in developing countries. The hypothesis 2 is the vertical FDI increase the demand for unskilled workers relative to skilled workers that lead to skill-unskilled wage gap reduction in developing countries. And we use the educational level to define the skilled and unskilled labor in Thailand with human capital theory. The skilled and unskilled labor force can be divided by the undergraduate and the vocational degree. Then we employed two types of measurements for the skilled-unskilled wage gap. The first one is the difference of average skilled wage and unskilled wage. The second one is the ratio of skilled to unskilled wage. The quarterly panel data covering the period 2008 to 2017 due to the available data. The data for labor force comes from the National Statistics Office of Thailand. The data for foreign direct investment comes from the Bank of Thailand. This study reclassified all 10 FDI sectors to 3 sectors as follows: the agricultural sector, industrial sector, service sector. There are 3 models in my study. The model 1 includes all sectors. The second model is the industry sector. The third model is the service sector. We don't use the agriculture as the model because the sample size is not large enough. It should be noted that this study cannot separately identify horizontal and vertical FDI effects, so both of FDI exist by introducing the terms of FDI minus 1 into the equation. The third part is the key findings. The first one is the panel co-integration test. In this study, the Padroni co-integration test is used. From the table, we can see the all 6 panel co-integration tests reject the non-hypothesis of no co-integration except the panel V statistic. This means a long-run equilibrium relationship between wage gap and FDI. The second one is the panel co-integration estimation. There are FMOLS estimator and the DOLS estimator will be used. For the model 1, the estimate coefficients of FDI will negative and the FDI minus 1 will positive. It proved both of horizontal and vertical FDI exist, but they were not statistically significant at the 10% level. The results don't give strong evidence that FDI affects the wage gap over the period. For the industrial sector, when using the wage difference as the dependent variable, the estimate coefficients of the FDI will negative. The estimator DOLS11 and the DOLS22 are strongly statistically significant at the 5% level. The estimate coefficients of FDI minus 1 will positive. The estimator DOLS11 and the DOLS22 will statistically significant at the 10% level. So the results suggest that both of horizontal and vertical FDI exist in industrial sectors, and these two types of FDI lead to opposite effects in skill and skill wage gap. While using the wage ratio as dependent variable, the both estimate coefficients of FDI and FDI minus 1 will negative. The estimator for FDI will strongly statistically significant at the 1% and 10% level. For the FDI minus 1, there will only DOLS22 statistically significant at 1% level. So the results suggest that both FDI and FDI minus 1 are negative on the wage gap, but only the FDI variable was statistically significant. For the service sector, when using the wage difference as dependent variable, the both estimate coefficients of FDI and FDI minus 1 will positive, but they were no statistically significant at any level. While using wage ratio as dependent variable, the estimate coefficients of FDI and FDI minus 1 were also positive. The estimator DOLS for FDI minus 1 was statistically significant at the 10% level and the 1% level, but there are no statistically significant at any level for the FDI. The results suggest that both FDI and the FDI minus 1 will positive on the wage gap, but only the FDI minus 1 variable was statistically significant. The third one is the Grandeur causality test with panel VECM. The results suggest that two-way long-run causality between FDI and the skill-on-skill wage gap exists in all sectors. But only the industrial sector exists one-way short-run causality at 10% statistical level. That is the FDI to wage difference and the FDI to wage ratio. So the increase in FDI could cause wage gap increase in the industry sector. For the service sector, there is no statistically significant short-run causality between FDI and the wage gap. The first part, the conclusion. The result shows that there is long-term equilibrium relationship between FDI and wage gap, no matter what FDI sectors between 2008 to 2017. In the industrial sector, a 1% increase in horizontal FDI will reduce the wage gap between skilled and unskilled workers by approximately 0.13% to 0.15%, and a 1% increase in vertical FDI will increase the wage gap in Thailand by approximately 0.11% to 0.12%. This is consistent with our previous assumptions. In the service sector, the effects of horizontal and vertical FDI on wage gap are not strong as the industry sector. The panel Grandeur causality analysis results suggest that there exists long-run two-way causal linkage between FDI and the skill-unskill wage gap in these three models. That is, the increase in FDI will reduce the wage gap, but the increase in wage gap will limit the FDI. This is well explains that FDI causes the virtual circle in labor market of host country. At the same time, there is only the industry sector exists short-run causality between FDI and the wage gap in these three models. That is, the FDI could cause large wage gap in one way, but we don't find significant evidence that short-run causality in service sector. That's all. Thank you.